Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show. My name's Doug Cunnington. Today, we're going to go over a couple random topics. It's going to be maybe like 2 rants, not specifically negative, but I'll try to just not complain. Although, I mean, part of this is complaining, but I don't want to complain the whole time. So I'll try to, I don't know how I'm going to spin it into something positive, but I'll try to spin it into some sort of lesson that we can learn from. But let's be honest, it's just going to be me complaining for at least one of these. And there's another couple things. I'll just let you know like what I've been up to a little bit. And finally, the thing is like it's the week of Thanksgiving, right? So it's Black Friday time frame, and there's all these deals and stuff. The thing is like it's not just like Black Friday deals. It's like Cyber Week deals. It's the whole fucking month. I started to get deals at the very end of October, which was a little bit surprising. In fact, one company, they were like, I was potentially going to work with them and they were like, hey, we got our Black Friday deal. I think they fucked up the months because like the Black Friday deal, it was like the last week of October. And I was like, I think they messed up. And I haven't followed up. And now that I think about it, I think they messed up the months. They're not located in the US. So maybe they didn't realize the calendar. Although, just Google that. Pretty easy to figure out. We'll start in the more positive area. I've been doing a little freelance photography and videography as well. So the videography thing I've been doing for a little while. I only have one client. So one of my friends here in town, she was inquiring about someone that could do live streaming she's in a choir and they perform, I think, 3 times a year. They have a concert 3 times a year. And, a few hundred people show up to watch the concert. And some people can't attend, so they wanted to live stream it. This is a nonprofit. And she had some questions, and I was like, I'm not the right person, but I have done a lot of live streaming. So if you have questions, I can answer some questions around it. Well, it turned out she needed someone to do it, and they had already inquired with some more, quote, professional companies out there, people that do live streaming to make a living and or videography. And they were charging somewhere around $1,200 or so. And this was in before all the inflation hit. So this must have been 2021 or so. And I was like, you know what? This seems kind of interesting, a little bit challenging. I haven't done it before. Let's give it a shot. And I asked her what her budget was. And I was like, you know what, I'll just come in under your budget. I know you guys are a nonprofit. You're not trying to make money here. It's, people go and practice the choir performance and stuff. They practice together. They don't get paid or anything. And then it's a nonprofit. So anyway, it's a good cause and all that kind of shit. So anyway, I was like, I'll do it. It was fine. The first couple times that I did it, I actually went to their dress rehearsals to make sure I knew what I needed to set up. So I was familiar with the performance so I could maybe switch cameras a little bit more easily. And at the end of the day, now that I've done this, 5, 6, 7 times, I don't remember how many times I've done it for a few years here. So now I know exactly what to do. I know the audio guy. I know the feed that we need. I can just show up. It takes me about half hour to set up. And then the concerts are an hour. And I charge, like I said, a little bit less than what their budget is. And here recently I was like, hey, I could do it again for you this year, but I'm going to, fucking everything's more expensive. So I was like, I need to raise the price. So instead of the actual market value is about $1,200 or so, I was like, I'll charge $400. And then I just stepped it up to $450. So like I said, there's a little drive time and stuff. So all in, including my drive and all that stuff, it's about a little over $100 an hour, which is fine. Like I said, it's for a good nonprofit, nice people, good to work with and all that stuff. So that's one thing that I've done. And I've mentioned it before in the show. Like I like photography. I've been into photography since I was like a teenager, basically back in the 35 millimeter days. Have had many cameras. I'm looking over at my shelf of lenses, and over the years through the YouTube channel and, the money that I've earned, I've been able to get nicer lenses over time, which I never thought I would have some of the lenses that I have just because they're kind of expensive. But if you get them on the used market, way, way cheaper. And the other thing is just over the course of several years, doing YouTube, having a reason to have good lenses, I've accumulated a few. I like photography, and one of those things they say, like, don't turn your hobby into your profession, because then you'll hate your hobby because it feels like work. But if I do things for fun, then it's not a big deal. So locally here, it's like a bar, tap room. It's called Shoes and Brews. So it's a shoe store. They're very focused on running. And then they have like one of the best tap rooms in town. They have a small sort of like nano brewery setup. I think Matt Giovanisi's setup is actually like bigger than what Shoes and Brews could brew. But Shoes and Brews has maybe like 4 or 5 beers of their own. And then they have like 16 other beers there from all over the world, basically. So they have a great selection. They have, I think, 2 races per year, a 5K, once in the spring, once in the fall, and they do the race. But then there's sort of like a mini little beer fest out there. So sometimes there's multiple breweries out there. This last one, there were only a handful of different drinks that you can get, but I think it was Left Hand, and they had like 8 different beers you can get. And then maybe there was a seltzer company. And then there's other vendors out there and stuff. So they have in their parking lot. It's pretty cool. I mean, probably over 1,000 people show up or so. I think there's at least 600 people that run the race, if I have my numbers right. And then all their friends come and party. So maybe there's well over 1,000 people at the event. So anyway, they were looking for someone to take some photos out there basically after the race. So just like the party aspect of it. And I actually I brought my camera a couple of years ago and took some pictures just of my friends that were out there. And when Shoes and Brews was looking for someone to do photography, they were like, oh, we're looking for photographers out there, which I don't consider myself a photographer. I'm a hobbyist at best. But anyway, I was like, hey, I'll do it. Like, here's some pictures that I took before. Ashley, the person running it, the organizer there, perhaps lead marketer and operations person there, she was like, hey, I love the pictures that you took before. They look awesome. And yeah, you can come and shoot this. She said that she'd hired like a primary photographer, a guy named Nick Benson. Shout out to Nick, who was super nice. But anyway, she was like, yeah, you could do it. We bartered a little bit and ended up, arriving at, she was going to be able to give me a pair of shoes, which was cool. And then I would shoot the post-race event. So that worked out great. I was a little intimidated. So I saw Nick out there and he was super nice. He was like, hey, are you the other photographer? And we chatted for a second and I was like immediately intimidated, even though he was like super nice. He came up to me to chat, but I was like, I'm like taking snapshots. Like I barely know what I'm doing, that kind of thing. But he, as a pro photographer who shoots like weddings and other events, and I think he said he works for Sigma. Luckily, I had my Sigma lens, which I'm using right now, the 18-35. So he saw it and he knew immediately. He's like, oh yeah, looks like a nice lens there. And he had a couple nice Sigmas. I think a couple new fresh ones are out. But anyway, he was super nice, but I was a little intimidated and immediately was like self-deprecating. I was like, oh, you're the real photographer. I'm just kind of taking the snapshots. And he was like, oh, I mean, you're fine, man. Like, it looks like you got some nice gear there. I'll be interested to see the shots that you got. And we chatted for a second just to make sure we would stay out of each other's way. Like more me staying out of his way. I was very, very conscious of that. But he treated me like another pro photographer, even though I didn't feel like one. And once I got into it, what I did was, because I knew Ashley wanted like snapshots of people having fun. So I looked around a little bit and I was like, oh, the beer line. People are standing in line. They're not really doing anything else. They're looking for a little distraction, and they got a few minutes or a minute or two before they're going to get their beer. So I camped out there and took hundreds of photos, and it was awesome. I think it turned out well. I just sent the photos over to Ashley, which I think perhaps maybe by the time this comes out, the photos will be posted. But I got hundreds. I think I took like 500 plus photos or so, and they turned out great. I mean, throw out 30% of them or something like that. Some of them I was like, these didn't turn out great. And the thing is, once I figured out like to camp in front of the beer line, it turned out great. So it was just like, I could just keep taking them. I didn't have to take multiples too often. Like at the beginning, I was like, I'll take 2 or 3 shots of a group. That way, if someone blinks or something, but by the end, I was just like, one shot is good enough. So that turned out great, and it was pretty fun. I'll probably do it again. I think I picked a reasonable lens. Like I said, I have the 18 to 35. That's the one that I brought, and I'm using a crop sensor for the photographers out there. So it's a 1.6 multiple. So that equates to, I think it's like 38 millimeters to like 56 or so. So it's like nicely positioned in that like normal, slightly wide, but not too wide, but great for portraits and a little bit more. I think Nick was probably using a 24 to 70, 2.8. And so he was able to get just a little bit longer, but he was using a full frame camera. And I'm not sure. I have a couple other lenses that could have worked well. Specifically, I actually brought a 50 millimeter 1.4, which would have been a little bit longer. And I think it could have been helpful in certain situations. But like I said, once I figured out to stand next to the beer line, it just worked perfectly. And people were pulling me aside like, hey, will you take a picture of me? Like after I was kind of lounging around after I got a few hundred pictures right there, I like felt more comfortable with the whole thing. So that turned out well, and it's kind of fun because number one, I don't have to do any like heavy marketing. I'm not earning a living from it. It's just kind of for fun. So I'm like under no obligation to like find more business or do more. It's not critical. Like I do a portrait shoot every now and then for some friends, although this year I haven't done any, but I was going to do a photo shoot for like some senior pictures for a friend's daughter, and their schedule changed, something like that. But that would have been totally fine. And the thing is, maybe I cheapen the photography industry because I'm not charging enough, but I'm like, you could have the photos. All right. Like I'm not trying to sell you like 5 pictures. I'll give you the couple hundred images that I took, and you can do some further editing, but I'll just edit like 10. So anyway, it's a pretty fun gig, and I have all the gear, and it gives me a reason to like actually do a little bit more with the camera gear that I have. Hold on, I gotta pause. So shout out to Shoes and Brews out there in Ashley. We'll link up. If you're passing through the Longmont area, Shoes and Brews is one of the best tap rooms. There's awesome breweries in town and in the whole Boulder County region. But if you just go to Left Hand, for example, you basically only get left-hand beers, right? They might have the one-off something in a can or whatever, but it's like you go to a brewery, you're just getting those beers. If you go to Shoes and Brews, they have stuff from, I think it's mostly Colorado, but occasionally they'll have something from, say, Russian River. They've had Pliny the Elder a couple times. They've had Blind Pig, a couple other things like that. So just some of the best breweries from all around, plus a few beers of their own. So I'll link to Shoes and Brews. I think Nick has Instagram, so we'll link up to that too. Nick was super nice, real professional, very, very kind to me, even though I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. I was in over my head, which, I mean, maybe that's a lesson that we can take away here. I basically don't know if I have the skills to do that thing, but I was very straightforward with Ashley. I was like, hey, like I'm hobbyist. And I showed her some of my work and she was like, that's cool. That's what I'm looking for. And she also had a pro photographer. So I felt confident, like any like more difficult shots or anything like that, he was hopefully going to be able to get. And side note, it was beautiful day, sunny, blue skies, super hard to take pictures because of the harsh sunlight. So very intense shadows. So people would wear a hat and they would have a shadow over their face, or they would be in direct sunlight. If someone was in the sun and then another person was in the shade, it was like you couldn't see the person in the shade. So it was actually a little bit difficult to get some of the photos, and Nick and I did talk about that. So anyway, Nick was very nice to me and I appreciate that. All right, a couple weeks ago, I mentioned the financial independence and FIRE concepts out there. So I'm curious if people connected with that. Do you want to hear more of that kind of content? More would be, over at my other podcast, Mile High Fi, or did it sound like it's unrelatable? So just curious, if you have a minute, shoot me an email, feedback@Doug.show. And the other part related is if you want to save some money, I recommend you check out Mint Mobile. So I'm an affiliate for Mint Mobile nowadays. I use the product. So I was on AT&T for many years, and I was a little bit nervous to switch over to one of the cheaper options. I think we've heard of cheaper options and stuff, but basically at AT&T, I think we had a pretty good deal. We were on a corporate discount, but for my wife and I, it cost about, I think it was like $115 to $125 per month. I think they were slowly raising the price. And whenever I would call up, I was like, hey, is there some promo? Can you move me? I've been with you guys for a while. And they were like, nope, you got a great deal. We can't move you. You're grandfathered in. You can't get a better deal than what you have. I moved over to Mint after hearing about it for many years. And basically, we're getting the same data, the same service. And instead of paying what we were before, we're paying roughly just a little bit over, I think, $15 per month per person. So with a couple extra fees, you know how cell phones are. Mint's pretty good though. It's only about $40 per month for both of us. Now, it's so cheap, and you could actually get a better deal if you pay like annually. So last November in 2023, I tested Mint Mobile on my phone for about a week. It was free to test out. I think they have a free trial situation. And the thing is, that's important to do to make sure, like where you live, your service works well. Now for us, I mean, hell, I'm in my basement and I still get a good signal down here. But when I'm at home, I'm on like the Wi-Fi, I'm on the network. So I don't actually need to have good cell phone service like in my house or in my basement. In fact, it doesn't even matter to me at all. I would leave my phone upstairs or whatever. But the point is, Mint is so much cheaper and you're able to get essentially the same service. So it runs on the T-Mobile network. If I remember right, T-Mobile actually purchased Mint, but it's still a discount carrier out there. So highly recommend Mint Mobile, at least to check it out. I used to be scared to switch over because in my mind, it was so difficult to switch to a different carrier. But nowadays, it's so easy. It took me like 10 minutes to set up. So you have to initiate it and they walk you through it. They make it very simple to switch over. And then you may have to like confirm via text a couple times, but essentially it's very easy to do. It takes no time at all. After I tested it, I checked with my wife and I was like, I'm moving you over too. It worked for me. If you have any issues, we can move you back. So there's no risk to check it out. So thanks a lot to Mint Mobile. Really appreciate it. And if you want to say, I mean, the thing is you immediately start saving money. While I did pay for a full year in advance, it was basically the same cost as 2 months. It's insane how much more those companies charge. And one of the reasons why is because they have all those ads everywhere. So anyway, check out Mint Mobile. Let's move on. I got I'll do one of the rants now, by the way. So I got an interesting email from LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, I don't spend much time there. There's so much spam and people are just selling stuff. It's a horrible place as far as I could tell. Also, I'm not in the sort of corporate and professional world, nor am I trying to sell and hawk a bunch of shit. So basically, LinkedIn, I go over there and I get pitches for stuff. There's tons of pitches. There's all these paid messages that come my way and it looks like nonsense. But I got an email from someone over at LinkedIn and it looks like they're trying to get video creators over there. So I looked at it and I was like, is this a pitch or what? So basically it was someone who I think they help bring video creators over and like tell them how to perform over on LinkedIn. So, I mean, the bottom line is that they want creators over there, especially video creators, because they want our content. So we'll see how it goes. It appears to be a free like onboarding meeting, and I'm not sure of like what it is. It sounded like it was invite only. Looks like a legit LinkedIn person. It's not like a subsidiary. It looks like someone that works at LinkedIn. It's not an external company who's like, hey, we'll train you on LinkedIn. And by the way, somehow I ended up on a YouTube channel and it was someone who, I mean, it was a smaller-ish channel, say under 5,000 subscribers. The views weren't that impressive either, but she was like, I have like 1 million followers on LinkedIn. And I was like, she's not that good. I think what she's doing is telling people how to get followers on LinkedIn. It's very recursive. It's like the make money online industry where you teach people how to sell more ClickFunnels or whatever the fuck. So anyway, the LinkedIn person that I saw on YouTube, I was like, she's not that good. She seems like she has a lot of followers. And it seems like she's just telling people how to grow their following on LinkedIn. Again, seems very recursive. And I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't impressed. So anyway, I'm going to check it out. The reason why I'm bringing all this up is I went to LinkedIn because when I signed up for their little Zoom onboarding meeting, they wanted my LinkedIn profile. So I was like, let me go grab that link. So like all social media, if you just have to do one little thing, they suck you in, right? So I'm scrolling a little bit. And the weird thing is I have people that I'm connected with from the old corporate world from 15, 20 years ago, but also from my online world from the last few years. So I was reading from someone that I met maybe like a decade ago. It's a good person overall. I don't think they ever spent time in the corporate world. And while I don't like the corporate world, and I don't think I could work in that sort of situation again, you learn a lot of things, especially with my project management background and some of the management skills and other, I mean, I worked in the industry for like 10 years. So I did build up some skills, even though I often downplay them and talk bad about them. And I don't like the corporate world. When I read his post, which was somewhat interesting, they're good copywriters and or ChatGPT can make like copywriting a little bit more attractive and readable and catchy. I read they describe a struggle. So that's what they're telling a story, right? So it's a story in like 150 words or something like that. And it's like, here's a problem. Here's what happened and it was my fault. And here's why, and here's what I need to do. And at the end of the day, I read like 2 or 3, they were just kind of interesting and they're trying to build a following, right? It was just a little bit interesting, but I was like, this is like an obvious fucking problem. Like you were only thinking about 1 to 2 steps ahead. You had no contingency plans and you didn't communicate with your team. Like, obviously, this is not going to work. Like, did you think to ever get feedback from the people that you're working with? Like, what's the communication channel here? You're just like barking out orders. And I mean, here's the thing. Like I said, I worked in the corporate world. I think it's shitty. However, like, you do learn specific skills, like some 101 type stuff. Or maybe it's because I was in a consulting capacity. So it is us management consultants. We think a lot of ourselves. So, I mean, that's a thing too. But they actually, I mean, they train you like in orientation to be able to assess a situation, like look at the like talk to people, have good communication skills, and like make sure that you are looking at the sort of full situation. Additionally, there's like some peer review things that happen. I mean, that's even something that like any company could start doing, is like have some peer review stuff, because you have your own blind spots, especially a project that you've been looking at for a while. So anyway, when I read it, I was like, what the fuck? Like, people don't think ahead. That's my post-it note here. People don't think ahead. And I was shocked from this. I was chatting with, I can't remember if it was at FinCon or not, but I was talking to someone who they were working on a project with a partner or two. And they did something that I did when I worked with a couple people in the past. You spend, and you should spend, a lot of time talking about the contingencies plans of what happens if this doesn't work out. What happens if one person has some life change in the family? It's like not even their thing, but like maybe a parent or relative gets sick and they can no longer spend time on the project. How do they get out of the situation? Do they have to buy their way out? Does someone have to buy them out? Can they just leave? Like, what happens to the equity or whatever the situation is? The point is you think ahead. And it is interesting, again, looking at the online world where you could do a lot of stuff. You could have like a pretty big business and accidentally not think very far ahead and make bad decisions and essentially just have your head up your ass. So anyway, look out for that. And it's easy to miss it in yourself. And sometimes I have to think about that too. I'm in an interesting place with my business, especially, when I'm chatting with other either peers or folks that are ahead of me or behind me. They're like, oh, where are you earning money right now? Like, what do you do on your channel? And I'm in a transition period a little bit. I'm trying to figure it out. People like to hear stories of like challenges and problems that need to be solved. And at times I'm just telling some stories here. Now, the good part is I haven't listened to a lot of the shows from, the first 200 Doug.show episodes, but I think I would show up and I would tell stories sometimes. There would not really be a point. Sometimes you have to drag a point out of there, but sometimes it's just a story. There's no fucking point. So, okay. So that was one of the rants. The other thing I'll talk about is the Black Friday deal. So it is Black Friday. I think I will set up a page because I have some friends that are promoting some stuff and I'm like, you know what? I'll set up a page and just have those deals on there. But I'll tell you, when I first started in 2013 or so, I started around this time of year, maybe a couple weeks before Black Friday of 2013. And I was just amazed that anyone read my blog or that signed up for my email list or whatever. And I had offers from whatever, software companies, from other things out there that were services and stuff like that. And basically I was like, this is such a rare opportunity. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to market. I'm going to use their email copy that they give me and use these sales tactics and try to push some Black Friday stuff. And it was kind of exciting. I earned, I don't remember how much, hundreds of dollars, right? So I earned like hundreds of dollars promoting a couple of these products, But it was really cool because a few months before that, I had no email list. No one knew who I was. And it sounded impossible to like send out an email with a promotion and actually earn some money. So the fact that I was able to do it was pretty cool. Each year, all these companies are sending out more deals. They're starting earlier and earlier. In the last couple years, I have either sent out one or two emails or zero. There was a couple years ago, I don't remember exactly which year. I was like, you know what? This is a fucking hassle. Like all these companies have like different time limits. They're like, we're opening it up on Monday, and then we're closing it on like Friday afternoon. And then others are like, no deals until Friday, and others are like, wake up first thing on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, and like that's when the cheapest deals are. And then others do it the whole fucking month. So anyway, I'm in a spot now where I'm like, I don't want to like put the time limit, and it's confusing for the people on the other side of it. So I think I'm just going to set up a page and sort of treat it like you could take it or leave if you need. And actually, this is a message for you out there. Don't buy stuff that you don't need, right? So if you need the product right then, like, go ahead and buy the product. If you don't need it, don't fucking buy it. If you think you might need it in 6 months, don't buy it. If you think you need it in a year, don't buy it. I remember there was a dude, I was in sort of a light mastermind group with this dude, and man, he knew all the stuff, but he didn't execute on anything. But he listened to whatever, all the good podcasts. He took all the courses, and that motherfucker would buy like all these AppSumo deals. So he would have lifetime deals to like all these products, and he didn't do shit with any of them. He was just like in love with the process of thinking about doing something, talking about doing something, and he was the biggest know-it-all in the group. This is several years past, so like I feel comfortable talking about this dude, but he was the only one that wasn't doing anything, but he had more products than anyone. It was hilarious. And he's like, well, I got it because I'm probably going to be doing webinars one day. And I'm like, man, you're not going to be doing fucking webinars. Like, we all know you're not going to do webinars. You know it. Everyone in the group knows it. Eventually, I mean, in a mastermind group, you are supposed to call people out. So eventually I was just like, man, you're saying all this stuff. You're not doing anything. Like, at least say a thing that you're going to do by the next week, even if it's simple. Like, reduce the number of things that you're going to do on your list. So anyway, Black Friday deals. I may send out an email or two. I may send out more likely, I'll send out an email that says like, don't buy shit you don't need. Because that's the real message here. Like, me promoting some of the other products from my friends, that's cool. Like, if you need, like, I know Linkify has a pretty awesome deal. And I think, I can't remember some of the others, but yeah, if you need the software, do it. If you don't do it. You don't need to do it. All right. As we're wrapping up here, I'm glad we talked about some more positive stuff. And then that little rant, that was kind of fun, but I'm going to call out a company here, which I don't regularly do. It's not in our industry, and I'd be shocked if they found anything out, but this is all true stuff. So I have no issue telling you about the true things that happened earlier this morning. I was buying a gift for someone, doesn't matter who. I was buying a pair of shoes from New Balance, and I went to New Balance, got to get it directly from the company in this case. Very specific. I had specific instructions to order this. So I signed up for their email list because it was like, oh, save 20% on selected things. And I was like, I bet I won't be able to use that 20%. So I signed up for the list. And when I go to click, it says you have to follow the link to get the deal of 20% off selected shoes. So I click the link, goes to a 404. So that's fucked up. So it goes to a 404. I don't know what the problem was. So that's fucked up, number one. And I was like, you know what? I can't even use this because I don't think it'll work on the shoes. And sure enough, when I went to the specific product page, the shoes say, like no deals, like this is the price. There's no deals. So I went to the email to unsubscribe because I don't want fucking emails from, New Balance. So I click unsubscribe, 404 again. So probably their email service provider, but you know what? I don't know that, and it's not my responsibility to know that. So I mark it as spam. I unsubscribe from it, and like, fuck them, right? So then I go to make the purchase for the shoes, which I think it's like, they're like $200 shoes. It's like the New Balance 993s, right? It's a cult classic, made in the USA, all that kind of shit. I used to wear them back in the day too. So anyway, I'm going through the checkout and it fails. Like it's telling me to like click the CAPTCHA thing. And it's like, are you a robot? Are you a human? All that stuff. So I'm clicking and I'm waiting because I know sometimes they're like, if you click, 4 times, it's going to charge you like 4 times. So I click and I wait and nothing happens. And then it disappears. It says, oh, you may have to do this a couple times. I'm like, what the fuck kind of user experience is this? This is crazy. And they charge like if you, I think you can get free shipping, which is what I got. But the other shipping prices are insane. It's like $20 and $25, which I don't know that it would cost that much to ship. So they're like upcharging on that on some premium ass price shoes. So anyway, I wasn't sure if it went through because it gave me no confirmation message. And I was like, well, their technology seems to be horrible and it's a terrible user experience. So I did go to my email to see if I got like a confirmation. So I waited for a little while, checked that, nothing came. So I did try to eventually I figured it out. I'll stop ranting here. Eventually I figured it out. But when the order finally went through, I did get the confirmation and they put the little survey thing up like, oh, how was your experience? Would you recommend New Balance? And I'm telling you, no, I wouldn't. And I told them, no, I wouldn't recommend New Balance. Their email list is either it's bait and switch or their email list is messed up or their ESP has some issue going on. It wouldn't let me unsubscribe, which is another big no-no. I mean, I think that's against the law. So I suspect there's some issue with it. But again, it's not my responsibility to know what the issue is or to solve it. So anyway, I wouldn't recommend New Balance, especially through their website. And all that stuff is true that I just told you. It was very frustrating. And I hope the gift recipient will be happy with the shoes. I think so. I got the exact, specific thing that he was asking for. And I feel like I should end on a more positive note. So I'll describe this shirt that I'm wearing for the listeners out there. If you're on YouTube, you can see this. This is my dog, Georgie, right here. She's actually sleeping right behind me on the bed. You can't see it very well, but she has a very cute picture on here and it has sort of it's like a classic sun, or it's a round shape with the different horizontal lines on it. And it says her name, Georgie, right here. So it's kind of cool. It's a fun, very bright, vibrant shirt. Always get smiles out there, especially if I'm walking Georgie around. Now, the coolest part is this was a gift for my wife. And she also got a shirt for Georgie, which has my picture. It's the same logo and stuff. It has my picture and it's on her back. And it says Doug on there. So when I put that shirt on her, she doesn't love it. It's a little snug on her. She's a strong dog, so she has muscles. But anyway, we look ridiculous when we're going around with our matching shirts on, but it's absolutely hilarious. And yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny. These are great shirts. So this is one some side hustle like folks could get into, right? This is like a print on demand kind of thing. And I've actually purchased a couple shirts and I've seen people in shirts similar to this. And I think my wife got the logo maybe from someone on Etsy, not 100% sure. So anyway, check out Mint Mobile, save a few bucks on your mobile. If you're not signed up to the email list, please hop over. You can follow the link in the description. And shout out to Nick Benson Photo, Shoes and Brews, those couple things. Check out the links in the show notes there, and we'll catch you on the next episode.